landscape architecture, it is, in my mind, the melding of science and art. And it's both an ecological scale or as an engineering scale. You can have it be as broad as an entire watershed or as small as a yard. I don't know if there's a better kind of thing that one could do with their life than to integrate the art and science of what we do with community and the planning of spaces for people.
Landscape architects design communities, they design cities, they design transportation systems, energy, food, waste. So almost everything that a person touches or interacts with that's not a building in the world is the purview of landscape architecture.
It's intentional, so it's designed. We're thinking about what we want a landscape to become or how we want a landscape to be conserved in some cases. And then we're thinking about the earth sciences, the natural sciences. How does science enter into the equation of creating a landscape that's safe for people to use, beautiful to enjoy?
A profession that creates places through holistic approach and using sustainable design principles.
It's about people. Yes, we design with nature, but we're designing for people. We're designing spaces, we're designing landscapes where people can connect again. There's a lot of concern about how development will impact people's day-to-day lives. How do I get to my job? Will there be increased traffic? Are my property values going to go up? So those are real concerns that we hear whenever we go out into the community and talk about opportunities. And as we are building these spaces, how do we do that with safety in mind? So that's where we turn to the principles of design.
Building in the time, really getting a sense, a community and a group of people's values and how they see things, and then finding the right fit of the tools that are required so that they can make an informed decision, not to guarantee that they're going to get the outcome that they may as an individual want, but that they are aware of the trade-offs that were required and they're aware of how the process actually works, such that they feel like there's been trust and there's been openness.
To have a really well-designed and built environment takes a special expertise. It takes having the knowledge of both the environmental aspects of your work, circulation, how people move and what's comfortable in a space.
We think about the ability of you to walk into a landscape, no matter where it is, if it's an urban setting, if it's a wilderness setting, and to evaluate how safe is this landscape for me to use. I'm a real big believer that, that as we design greenways, it's all about the experience of place. So in a sense, we're placemakers.
I think generally the public just has no idea that these places are designed for them. I think that they come, they use the space, and they may never know that it was actually functionally designed with landscape architects, engineers, all of the folks in the urban design sections or the community planning. If it works really well, it's just so seamless that they don't know, I think, that it's a design space.
Thinking about it in the world in which I'm often working, which is the disaster environment. And so disasters often shine a really powerful light on pre-existing conditions. People of color and those that have been historically marginalized are often living in areas that we know are among the most vulnerable. You know, thinking about that and thinking about how we can play a fundamentally important role in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, trying to break that cycle or trying to recognize it and confront it. How do you come in and support and recognize some of the fundamental challenges that they experience?
We've actually had 2 500-year storms in the last 3 years. It was in that we, as a department, wanted to respond, and some of the pioneers in that regard were our colleagues Andy Fox and David Hill, who started the Coastal Dynamics Design Lab several years ago to kind of deal with these particular issues. But as a department, we organized what was called a Design Week, where we engaged students with various communities across Eastern North Carolina to, in a short period of time, generate strategies to help them rebuild and a more resilient way, a way that sort of acknowledges that this is not going to be an anomaly or just a rare occurrence anymore, that we're all anticipating this is going to happen.
And so to me, that's where, I mean, one of the many strengths of a landscape architect is that they're comfortable in that arena, addressing an interdisciplinary challenge. And by bringing these teams together to take it on is a unique space that I would argue landscape architects have a unique role to play.
The value of landscape architects is that we can take very, very difficult circumstances and create highly successful finished landscapes that, you know, address public safety, that address the enjoyment of the landscape, that address the functionality of the landscape. It functions well, rain or shine, you know. And I think that's what's so powerful about landscape architecture.
We're doing residential work, we're doing commercial work, we're doing broad-scale planning for watersheds and communities and stormwater management, and it's just huge. It's amazing.
Landscape architects have the opportunity to look at the biotech industry, and because the biotech is going to touch every sector of our lives.
How do we think and design for these changes? Not only in terms of our climate and our natural systems, but also economies and human settlements. I think landscape architects could very well be that profession that leads it.
Through our processes as human beings, how we move around, how we generate power, how we live, has had an impact on the entire planet. There isn't a part of the planet that has not been impacted by human activity. I kind of see it as like we have been unintentionally redesigning the planet for a long time. We don't have to be haphazard and accidental about it. We can be intentional about it. There's actually a profession where we think about that all the time, which is we can design better outcomes.
We're positively affecting the lives of people every day. We're contributing to their happiness, to their health and well-being. We're contributing to how they're using a landscape to accomplish something that's important to them.
So everywhere where we have the ability to sort of disrupt all these things that are causing harm and offer an alternative that can actually heal, I think that's our place.